Good day. I think you can see we've had quite a frost last night. Gosh, can you see the frost on top of that tunnel? Different materials in those two tunnels. The one on the right is a sort of plastic fabric, where the one on the left is actually netting. Talking about the black tunnels. But gosh, look over there. Oh, and we must have had wind again, because those brassicas are uncovered again. Oh, look how they just dip in the cold. A bit of sun on those and they'll be sprightly again. But yeah, definitely our hardest frost so far. Gosh, look at the brassicas in there. I'm not sure we've sort of seen them, but they're really, I mean, this is, brassicas doing this and plants doing this. It's a protection mechanism. So don't get too worried, because most will bounce back. Just had a look at these beds, which at the moment, I was going to level out this bed. All the potatoes are out of this bed now, and I was going to level it out. I think you can see there how it's not level, but virtually rock hard, or ice hard, I suppose is the right thing to say. I think what I might do, because I wanted to put chicken manure pellets on these today, rake them flat, chicken manure pellets, and then cardboard. The sun is coming out. You can just see up there, it's just beginning to poke its way through. But I think what I'm going to do is change my day around a bit, so that I'm back here this afternoon. Yes, the ground out there is pretty solid. I wanted to put the netting on the brassicas. It's just sort of looped over the brassicas at the moment, the Brussels sprouts, I mean. And I wanted to use some pegs and secure that down, because obviously now we're going to have quite a bit of wind over the coming months, though today is gorgeously still. I've actually had to move over. I'm usually sat sort of here, and I've had to move over because the sun is now out and it's so strong, as you can see. There's the camera tripod thing. Yeah, the sun is so strong that I can't sit in my usual position, because looking to camera, it's the sun is directly behind the camera, so in my eyes. So yeah, so I'm sitting here, so you can see the state of the top of my cupboard here. And also, look, there's some bay. Whilst the tree guys were here last week, there was a very, very large bay on someone's plot, and we have taken it down. It's got shoots coming up from the bottom, so they can then manage that to keep it at a decent height, or to a decent height of 2 meters. I think they're going to try and do it as a sort of shaped bubble. So it'll be interesting to see if they do that, but they've got quite a bit of work to do, because there's quite a few bits of growth coming up from the bottom, so they sort of need to decide which one of those bits of growth they're going to keep, so that they can shape it the way that they want to, and cut all the others down. Minus 4.3 it says it was down here last night. I've said it before, I'm not sure whether the lower temperature on this gauge is right. Maybe with wind chill coming through and hitting the thermometer, maybe that's taking it down a bit. But I think we certainly got down to -2. And when I woke up this morning and looked out, the frost was heavy. It's the heaviest frost that we have had so far, for sure. So yes, I wanted to peg the brassica netting down to stop it blowing away, but I also want to bring the netting over onto the Portuguese cabbage to protect them from pigeons. And I'm talking about the small plants of Portuguese cabbage that we planted out a couple of weeks ago. They're in there and they're fine, and they're not going to be affected by this cold at all. Well, of course they will be affected because they won't grow very much over the coming months, but they've settled in and they'll be fine. But I want to put the netting over them to protect them from pigeons. And I've seen my first garlic up, so I'm really pleased about that. It's just sort of coming above the ground at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see how far they do grow over the coming months. It really does depend how mild December is and whether they get a growth spurt. I mean, looking at the weather, it says that we're going to get quite a lot of snow, maybe not as far south as we are, though. It's certainly going to be cold. I don't know if you can see that, no, but it's cold in here. So yeah, I'm going to be back later and hopefully be able to do a few things once the sun has hit those beds and the frost and the ice has melted away. So I'll be back a little bit later. See you then. I did try and rake the raised bed to the right of us that had the potatoes in, but the soil there was still extremely frozen. So I moved to this bed, which was a bit easier to work. And after giving it a rake and levelling it off quite a bit, I took out a few more weeds that I'd left in there and then scattered with organic chicken manure pellets. And then, as you can see, I've put cardboard on top and I've weighed down that cardboard. I most probably need to weigh down a few other areas like over here. But yeah, I'll get a few more bricks and do that. But that is that bed sorted really for the winter. I need to sort the huge amount of grass and rye on the left of the bed, but I'll do that another day. The reason I'm putting this cardboard down is not because we're going to be putting any compost on top of here. It's simply to act as a weed suppressant over the winter months.
and then the cardboard, which will likely pretty significantly rot away over the coming months. Any that is left can go into our compost bin. But this is more to act as a weed suppressant, so that if we have a mild winter, or as soon as temperatures start warming up, the seeds that are in that soil don't immediately think, yay, we can get away, we can see the sun. Because hopefully the cardboard will still be in place come March, April, and they won't have any light getting to them, therefore inhibiting germination. Fingers crossed. I found this really big bit of cardboard at the side of the road. It's a big box, I think, from a cot. So you can see it's, oh yeah, look, you can see it's a cot. You can see that drawing there. Now, the thing about big bits of cardboard like this is how difficult they are to carry. I did fold this in half, so this bit here folds sort of behind that bit there. But what I did is I cut this hole into this bit of cardboard, so I can use this as a handhold. This bit here, I can carry it with my armpit up here. Well, not quite up there, but this is where I'll be carrying it. And I really find this a neat trick, because carrying something this size, even when it's folded in half, is still quite cumbersome. To have a handhold like this, I find really, really useful. Much, much easier to carry, and then it's not dragging on the floor and tripping you up, and you can get it down here much more easily. The other thing that I will be doing now is taking all of this plastic off. I think it's quite fresh, so it'll come off relatively easily. But what you don't want to do when you're laying plastic, what you don't want to do when you're laying cardboard is lay cardboard with any of this plastic on, because most of it, literally 99% of it, is not biodegradable and compostable, and will just sit as plastic in your soil. So best get it off now before you lay it down on your soil. Right, I'm going to leave it there with you today, and I'm going to get on and take all this plastic off and then pop it into the decrepit shed up there. See you soon. Bye.
Good day. This is actually take 2, because I recorded take 1 about 20 minutes ago, bunged it into the computer. Well, not bunged it in, but you know what I mean. And for some reason, when it gets a quarter of the way through, the sound becomes completely out of sync and garbled. Well, garbled more than normal, put it that way. So it's Wednesday afternoon for me. You will be seeing this on Sunday. And by the time you are seeing this on Sunday, Richard and I will be downstairs watching an episode of something like Schitt's Creek, I imagine, having spent a few days with Mum. So we're both really looking forward to that. And yeah, we've got things planned. Mum has a number of she needs to go to physio and has another appointment for a scan. So we will be taking her to those, or I'll most probably be taking her to those, while Richard is making supper for that evening. And we also need to go around the island, as we normally do, have a ride around the island and stop off to take photos. And in this instance, we're going to be taking photos for some of the upcoming pieces that I'm writing in the series A Guernsey Gardener in London for the Guernsey Press. So I know what I'm sort of, or the general topics that I'm writing around over the coming months, and we're going to be taking a couple of photos for those, because I know that there's certain shots that I would like to have for the piece, and we don't have those. We have others which are going to be used, but we don't have some, so we're going to be doing that. But today, what I am doing is I'm going through my seed box. If you're like me, and I'm sure if you have a seed box, you are like me, you will be going through this seed box, or your seed box, over the coming months about 100 times. Because we know what we'd like to grow, and we check that we've got the seeds, and then we check that we've got the seeds again, you know. And it's last growing season, I did that, yet I still managed to forget to purchase organic butternut squash seeds. I mean, I'm not quite sure how. And I remember on my spreadsheet, because I'm sitting in front of the computer, in fact I've got the software open that we do editing on, but I have been working on my spreadsheet of what we're going to be sowing and growing this coming year. And in that, as you know, I put what seeds they're going to be, what varieties they're going to be, where we're buying them from. If we've received them, then I say that we've received them. So by, let's say, the end of December, I hope to have all of the seeds that we are going to be sowing and growing from January through to September next year. Because as you know, we're in our, what I call our growing season of October to September, which I know some of you think's mad, but I follow in my dad's footsteps. So yeah, last year I forgot about butternut squash, so we ended up with no butternut squash seeds, which was, you know, annoying. We were given a couple of plants and we had some really nice butternut squash from them, but you'll have seen the ones that our fellow plot holder who gave us the plants grew. They were enormous. I mean, absolutely enormous. So this year I want to make sure that I know I've either received the seeds or I've ordered the seeds. And all of our seeds will go into this box, which sits in the fridge. It's got some silica sachets in it to keep everything dry. It's obviously got a lid. I've taken that off. And it sits in our fridge nice and cool. The only seeds, well, what isn't in there? Peas and beans. So our own saved peas and beans that we will be growing, they're the ones that we saved, and following Vivi's advice and the Coanga method, we put those into, after they were bone dry, we put those into the freezer for 3-4 days, sometimes a bit longer if I forget. And then they're in a glass jar, they've got a label on them, and then once they come out of the freezer, they go into our fridge and they remain in the fridge until we need them taken down to the plot for sowing. Potatoes we will be ordering later this month, and they will be arriving sort of February, March time, I would imagine. So obviously they're not in our fridge at the moment. And there are a couple of tomatoes that Jane Kelly is sending me seed of, some new varieties to her. And she's sending me those, and I am sending her some of our bean seeds as well. I think actually some of the Train Driver Mountain Range pea stroke mange 2 and some of the Golden Gate beans. And that's I was going to say it's a seed swap, but it's not really a seed swap, because, you know, it's just what we do, you know. And with Vivi as well, you know, we give seeds and we say, oh, you know, could we have a few of those, Jane? And Jane, oh yeah, but, you know, there we are. So, you know, that's absolutely lovely. And what else? So obviously our garlic isn't going to be in the fridge, though that was in the fridge from when we received it. So our garlic was planted and is growing, beginning to, all varieties I think have now just broken the surface. We've got two types of broad bean. One, a broad bean that has been saved by a fellow plot holder, and one, a broad bean that Vivi sent us, Vivi's broad beans. They are all, they've all germinated and are breaking the surface quite nicely. And, you know, we've netted them, as you saw earlier on in this A Week at the Plot. We have some onions, which were given to us by the same plot holder who gave us some of the broad beans. The onions are a mixed bag of white and red onions from Croatia, which her family gave her when she visited them in Croatia. So that's absolutely lovely. And of course, we've got our brassicas still growing at the plot, particularly our Portuguese cabbage, which are in various different stages of growth, because really they can be sown throughout the year, and they're really, really robust, so they're great. When I was going through the box a minute ago, the first thing I noted was the dazzling blue kale, which, as you may remember, is new to us this year, but is one that I would always do again. And we've marked one of the dazzling blue kale to save seed from when it flowers, sort of March, April time. So I'm looking forward to that, and we'll be bagging that up and hopefully getting really good seeds from it. There's also a cross of like a Cavolo Nero and a Portuguese cabbage, which is also interesting, that we're going to be saving seeds from as well. I'll talk more about that in maybe next week or the week after. But yes, this is what I'm doing today. I'm going through my spreadsheet. I'm going through the seed box. I'm marking down what seeds we have received, what seeds we're still to receive, what seeds maybe we need to order, including butternut squash, because the butternut squash variety that I want to grow has not become available on the website that I want to buy it from yet. So that it is again organic. And as you know, apart from old seed that we may have still, we are only buying organic seeds, and we're only buying from the smaller seed companies, or the Heirloom and the Heritage companies. I mean, it's interesting, you know, Heirloom and Heritage, the reason that we have so many hybrids now and F1 varieties is because with Heirloom seeds and Heritage seeds, they may be more prone to blight and, you know, diseases, which has been genetically grown out, whether that's been through genetic modification through science, or whether it's been through breeding process, like a natural breeding process. Some of those traits of that maybe we don't want in seeds have been bred out. However, I still prefer to go back to Heritage and Heirloom and traditional seeds, let's say, and seeds that can be shared with people, and seeds that I can grow again. Unlike F1, certainly when it comes to F1 varieties, if you grow an F1 plant and you save the seeds from it, should you be able to save the seeds from it, then because of the way that F1s are produced, the seeds of F1 plants are produced, the seed is unlikely to come true for you when you save it. So I think that's always worth bearing in mind. I mean, it could be that when you do sow an F1 seed that you have saved from, you know, save seed from an F1 variety, you might end up with something which is quite spectacular. You know, that's sort of part of the breeding process, if you understand what I mean. So it's, you know, it's like roses. There's so many roses that are crossed, and maybe, you know, 1 in 100 ends up on the, you know, at a garden centre, as with tulips and other spring bulbs and things like that, particularly tulips. I mean, you know, the amounts of acres and acres and acres, hectares of land that are used to breed new varieties of tulips. And most of them will just, you know, never see the light of day in a commercial sense anyway. Right, look, I'm rambling, aren't I? I hope that this time the sound comes together with the video and it doesn't go all garbled, but fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And I'm going to leave you now with a segment that you've seen a bit further back in this A Week at the Plot, because obviously when you see me walking to the camera with a bit of cardboard, I've actually walked away from the camera previously because, you know, I need to set up that shot. So I'm going to leave you with that because I haven't filmed a little outtake for the end of this video. So I'm going to leave you with that bit. See you very soon. Bye.